This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com. No doubt. And I'll tell you, the great times kept rolling the very next night on Raw. It was July 19th in Tulsa. It's a great show, but it starts with an incredible three-way that we should mention. We've also got a reveal of Team Cena with Bret Hart at the end of the show, which is fun. But the really fun thing here is the opener. It's Orton over Edge and Jericho, where Meltzer would give it 4 stars and say it was one of the best Raw TV matches of the year with tons of near falls and saves. It's good stuff. I think 2010 is maybe one of the more underrated years in the history of WWE. There's some great stuff here, and this is a great example of that. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And young talent stepping up and demanding to have a spot on top in the company. And that's what you want. You want guys chomping at the bit, wanting that top spot. And guys were starting to rise up and up their game. And a lot of things were happening in 2010.
Let's jump to Twitter. We let you guys ask questions. And one of the things that we do is we do this every week where you can ask questions about whatever the topic is, but every other week it's an Ask Arn. So next week we've got nothing but questions. Stay tuned and ask a question if you'd like to at the Arn Show on Twitter. And by the way, a little rumor going around, Arn, is very soon we might actually have your actual name on Twitter. How about that?
Oh yeah.
That's what I hear. We've got a friend of a friend who's working on that for us, but we're working on getting you some questions for today's topic, Money in the Bank 2010. Rajiv, great friend of the show, writes, was having Kane win the first Money in the Bank match just to shock the audience? Mostly more agile guys had won this match or this style match up to this point. It doesn't seem like this type of match suits big men, but Kane always seemed to pull it off. And he did here. And I agree. I don't know that anybody would have necessarily picked him as the winner, but it made sense the way they did it. What'd you think?
I think like the audience thinks, if you saw the reaction, it told you made the right decision.
Yeah.
It was more of a career validation from the audience to Kane than anything else, than winning that particular match. They were just validating that he was a big star. It was a popular decision.
Drew Landry wants to know, who was someone Arn or the Horsemen would want to face in a cage match? Do you have a favorite cage opponent? Like back in the day, you've said, hey, if I had one dream WrestleMania moment, I'd want to wrestle Ricky Steamboat. Did you have a favorite cage match opponent?
I tell you what I did like. The one that I really enjoyed was Ole and I wrestled the Rock and Roll Express in Greensboro in a cage, and they were the champions. That went almost 60 minutes. Ole and I beat the ever-loving piss out of both of those kids for 50 minutes. And they just kept fighting back. And right at the end, they were able to pull off a victory and get out of there just barely as Ole was stomping them all the way out of the cage. It was one of those nights and one of those matches that you didn't think you would see. The scenario was all wrong with the babyface champions, and we went some time and told a story, and I thought it was one of the best cage matches I've seen as far as having a little bit challenging set of circumstances. And I feel a little funny saying that because we were in the match, but I'm watching Ole and the Rock and Roll Express just tear it up. And I was just fortunate to be in the match and be part of it and do my part, hold my part up. And that's one that I really enjoyed, I think.
Jimmy Steven wants to know, why did WWE give up on Tyson Kidd and Davey Boy Smith Jr. so quickly?
Who knows? Whoever knows. You've seen them, Conrad. They're one of your favorites. Team, you're a pretty good critic. I feel like I can judge talent and assess talent. I thought they were a great team. And there's never a reason that talent gets their water cut off. It's just like, okay, we're going to go with these guys. And then one day water gets cut off and it's over. I wished I had the answer.
Rajiv wants to know, was Vince against tag team wrestling at this time? It seemed like it was always on the back burner during this period.
Here was a rumor, and this is what, I believe it because it's always about the almighty dollar. He didn't like managers. He went through that period of time where everybody had a manager and then they went away. And I think he went through a frame of mind that, okay, if you got a tag match and the bad guy's got a manager too, there's 5 sets of trans.
Yeah.
Versus a single match, 2 sets of trans. And it was just about economics.
Let's agree. I mean, that's what I've heard too, that it's, if you have 2 guys in the main event, it's 2 big paydays versus if you have 4, it's 4. And as you said, with managers, 5 or 6. So it's hard to believe that a multi-billion-dollar company is making decisions like that based on an extra payday one way or another, but it is what it is.
Well, especially, and this is my opinion. I mean, I value yours too. A great tag match with all the components in place, heels as champions with some heat, is impossible to follow.
I agree.
So, which way do you assess it? Having more paydays and more sets of trans, or kick-ass matches? I guess that's the question.
Let's talk a little bit about Sheamus. Adam wants to know, how does Arn rate Sheamus as a champion? Does he make the belt, or does the belt make him?
Well, you never put a title on somebody to get them over. What you do is you take your championship and put it on the guy that's the most over. That's the reason you put it on that guy, because that guy's ready to draw money. You can put the world title on anybody, just name somebody. That guy's not going to come out the next week and draw you any money, or the next week, or the next week, or a month later, or 6 months. People, the audience smell it. They can smell it big time. You put the title on somebody to try to get a guy over, that's just shoving them down people's throats, and that's not what works. That's the reason I go back to the Kane thing. It was an affirmation of he had paid his dues. He was over. He was a top guy. When you saw Kane coming down that aisle, you knew what you got, and the audience acknowledged that night he deserved to be the champion. And that's kind of the rule that you always try to follow.
Instagram, a wrestling historian, wants to know, why did Vince McMahon lose interest in this era in Drew McIntyre as a top player?
Well, he was, he saw something in Drew that he really liked. He named him what was the title he put on Drew? The what one? He was the
chosen one?
Remember that? The chosen one, that moniker, right? Well, I think that was a shoot at that time. I think he looked at Drew and said, here's a young guy that I'm going to go all the way with. I've said this before, and I know it sounds crazy, but Drew got too lean. And I know that he knew Vince liked body guys and everything, but Drew went through a period where he got so lean, it actually was a detraction from his look, because he's a big, tall guy. And he got so ripped, and he looked like a guy that was fixing to get into an amateur bodybuilding contest. I think that hurt him in as much as anything else, but I think Vince truly chose him as being one of the next big stars. And it just, when he got so ripped and stuff, it just took away from him, because I think he had some issues, outside of the ring, as far as, in his personal life, which at that particular time, it all just kind of snowballed together.
Well, thankfully, these shows are snowballing together for us. You can get them early and ad-free over at adfreeshows.com. And we hope that you'll go pick up a new shirt over at arnshirts.com and throw us a follow at The Arn Show. Be sure to tune in next week, where we're going to be letting you guys ask any question you want to Arn Anderson. You don't want to miss it. It drops every single Tuesday right here on Westwood One. And again, enjoy them early and ad-free over at adfreeshows.com. Our show is at The Arn Show. I am at Hey, it's Conrad, and we are out of time. We'll see you next week right here on Arn Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money, it's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.